In this video, we're going to have a look at adjusting the layout of the single product page without touching the template. So just to give you a very basic introduction or example, this was the kind of basic layout. And by manipulating the elements now, we can just move things subtly around on the page. And this is all accomplished and achieved without editing any of the template files. So to make that happen, we make use of a series of hooks that are part of WooCommerce. And that simply allows us then to hook in and out of the template. This is the visual hook guide by Business Bloomer on businessbloomer.com. And as you can see, as you scroll down, you'll see we have all these items here that reference then what's on the page for the product and even what's below the product. And then right over here below that, we have a whole list of all those actions that you can then access. So to get started, what we're going to do is just start off with something really simple, and we're just going to start off with the right-hand column and just some of the basic items. So if I go back here to my shop now and I refresh, you'll see that we are back to the default layout in WooCommerce. And what I'm going to do now is manipulate those items. So I head over to code snippets. Now, code snippets is the plugin I'm using to add the code. And once you're in code snippets, you can then add a new snippet. So we'll add a new snippet and we're going to call it a single product layout. And once we've created that, I'm just going to save the changes and activate. We haven't added any code yet. Right now, I'm just going to paste in those items and save. And now when you have a look on the page, you'll see that nothing's changed. Next thing I'm going to do now is have a look at removing an item. So one of the quickest to notice would be, well, let's just remove all of these. Let's say you didn't want any of these items to appear on the page. We simply change the add action to remove action. And now when we refresh, we'll see that all those items that were listed are missing. And to get them back, very simple, we can just go add action, copy that across, save, head over, refresh, and now you'll see that those items are back. So maybe one of the things we want to do is move the rating to above the title, and then also then move this as a simple product up to the position of the rating. So to do that, I'm going to head back here. The first thing we want to do is move the rating to above the title. Now, the way that this is worked out in terms of position is that if we have a look at the action that we're looking at the WooCommerce single product summary, and you'll see that it's all the same action hook. And here you'll see we have this number 5, 10, and 20. And that indicates the position of the item. So if I wanted to move the rating to above the title, technically then I should be able to change that to the 4. And if I wanted to move the excerpt to above the price, I should then theoretically be able to do that just by changing the number to a 6. So the sequence is rating, title, excerpt, and then the price. So let's save that. And let's refresh the page. Right, so you'll see that it did work. We have the rating, we have title, we have the excerpt. However, we have a duplication of the rating and we have a duplication of the excerpt. Now, the reason for the duplication is because we didn't remove the original action. All we did was add a second action or the same action in a different position. So in order to remove those duplicates, what we're going to do now is just remove the default action. So the add action for excerpt was at position 20 originally. So to remove that action, we need to simply put in remove action. The other item that we moved around was the action for the rating. So what I'm going to do is copy that. And just before that, we'll add a remove action as well. So we're going to remove that action now, and that action's default was at position number 10. So now we save, head over to the website, and when it refreshes now, you'll see that we've removed that duplicate of the excerpt. So now we have the rating at the top, the title, and then the excerpt. And you'll also notice that here in my code, I haven't had to position these items in the same position as they appear on the front end. So what I can do though, if that is something that I'd like to do, is I could then move these around, or if I'm happy the way that it is, I could leave them in this position. Now, just something else that we need to look at. You'll see here that what I'm going to do now is set two items at the same position of number 10. So what I'm going to do is the remove action for excerpt is at 10. Was at 20, we removed it and we put it in at number 10. So I'm going to duplicate that to number 10 as well. And you'll notice here that the excerpt is below the price, but the priority number is the same. Now at the moment we have the excerpt above the price. So when I refresh, you'll see now that the excerpt has moved below the price. And if I was to move that up and position it now above the price and save and refresh, you'll see that it doesn't change position. So that just gives you a good idea of the hierarchy that exists if two items have the same priority number. So it will take a little bit of checking and identification to work out where to put things. But fortunately, what we're able to do is change that number to whatever we need it to be. And if you're uncertain or you get a bit lost in what you're doing, it's also then possible, what's quite nice is that if you were to just remove all those items, your page will then go back to the default layout. And of course, you can come back, get the items and start again. So one rule of thumb then when working with these items is to try and keep the structure of your actions in some kind of hierarchical structure that matches what's on the front end. Otherwise, it can get very confusing if everything is mixed up. So one of the ways of doing that is just to add a space between. And then, for example, if I'm going to move my rating to the top, then maybe what I want to do is now there are two ways of doing it. I could start off here with a remove action and then have the add action with the number 4, or maybe I want to group all my remove actions together and all the add actions together so that I can see the layout. But either way, it's up to you. And of course, when we refresh, it's moved to the top. So that's how you can quite easily manipulate, and then also how you can remove something that you don't want in this layout. So what I'm going to do now is just move the excerpt back to just below the title so that the price and the add to cart are grouped together. So to do that, then I'm going to just go to my excerpt, and the first thing that I'm going to do is just take that out. I'm going to head over to my title, and below the title I'm going to add the remove action to remove the default, and then I'm going to add an action to add a custom position, and in this case I want it just below the title, so I'll make that a 6. Head over and we have it in that position. Now if you wanted to add some styling to your layout here, so for example, at the moment, if we look at the CSS, you'll see that we have the title, then we have the description, and if I wanted to wrap the title and the description in a div, so maybe I wanted to put a block around them or put, to highlight them, is not possible at the moment because they are in two separate content elements, and the main wraps all the product. So if I wanted to put a class in there, I can do that also by using the hook. So I head over to the back end here and I see what I want to do is I want to add something then after the rating, but before the title, and also then something after the excerpt, but before the price. So to do that, we need to write a function. So let's create a function, and I'm just going to call this wrap title. Right, so that's the basics of the function, and I'm going to save. This is not going to do anything yet. So we need to actually create two functions. One is going to be the opening div before the title, and then we're going to have a closing div after the excerpt. So then I'm going to say open, and then I'm going to create a second one, and I'm just going to call that close. So we have the open and we have the close. Now what I need to do is tell it where to insert this information. So just to get started, then I'm going to give that an echo statement of open and this one of close. So this is just one way to see perhaps where you are putting elements. It's not going to do anything yet because I haven't added an action. So to add an action, let's have a look. I want it to come in after the title. So I'm just going to copy that in there. Then I'm going to replace this reference to a function with my function. So now what's going to happen is that it's going to insert the word open at position number 5. So the title is at number 5, and I want this to come in before the title. So I'm going to make that a 4, and then I'll just drop the rating down to a number 1 so that it's the very first item. And then we're going to have the word open come in just before the title, and then after the excerpt at position number 7, we're going to do the closing div. So we enter and we do the same thing, copy the name of the function, replace the WooCommerce function, and now we have everything in place. Before saving, I just like to copy and then save just in case there's an error. And now when we refresh, we'll see the word open and the word close. So that's also a way that you're able to insert custom text then into the single product layout. Now we're going to use that to style. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to go back to my snippet, and right now we can enter the opening div and the closing div. So let me echo div class equal, and now I'm just going to put in the div name. So let's say title wrap, and good to give your styles maybe a unique name. So I'll just prefix with the by, and what I'm going to do now is copy, or in fact I don't need to copy, I'm just going to echo out a closing div statement. Right, and I'll just copy the name of that class. So as you can see now, we've checked the position by echoing out some text, and now what I'm going to do is wrap the title and the excerpt with my own styling. So we save that. Right, head over to the website and refresh, and you'll see that nothing's changed. So to style that, I'm just going to head over to Customize and add some CSS. So we'll add some additional CSS. And we know that we've given that a class of title wrap. So what should happen now is that if I go border 1 solid, and let's change the color, and let's just make it a little bit darker here. It's very light. And then what we'll do is we'll give that a border radius. of, let's make it 10 pixels. So we give it a border, and then we give it some padding, and let's make it 15 pixels. So there we have, we've managed to group those two items, and we've just adjusted the styling a little bit here so that it balances out. But there we've managed to just include the title and the excerpt by wrapping it in a div. And if I wanted to, do something a little bit different, then I could also just go to the background and give that a light gray color. And then what we'll also do is just give it a box shadow, and we'll go 0 pixels on the horizontal, 5 pixels on the vertical. Give it a spread, something like that. That looks fine. And then what I'm going to do is just take down the border color. It's a little bit dark. And so there we have our wrap, and then we can publish that, close the customizer, and you'll see now that we've been able to wrap that particular element in a class. So we've grouped those two items together and then wrapped them in a class. Now we've got to be careful when we move things around, because we can't just move say the title unless we wanted to move it outside of this. So what's nice now is that I can actually manipulate what appears in this block. So maybe I wanted to add the price into that div wrap. I can have a look down here, and I see that the price is at the priority of 10. Now this is my own custom action, or function, so I don't need to remove it first and then add it again. That's because it's not a default within WooCommerce. This is the only time that it's been added. So if I wanted to move that closing div tag to include the price, I would actually then just move that down to 11. Hit save, refresh the page, and now you'll see that the price has been included. And similarly, we could do the same thing if we wanted to include the rating. So if we wanted to include the rating, I could also then, I see the rating is at number 1. So we'll just push that down to position 2, move this up to position 1, save. And now when we refresh, you'll see that I've moved that up. And we still haven't touched the template file. So that's one way then to group the information that we have for the product and separate it out in a wrap div. So that's just to give an idea that you can not only manipulate elements, you can also add in custom content, and you can wrap with the div. So now let's say we wanted to add some custom content in there again, and maybe I want to add it just above the rating here. I'm going to head over here, and now what I'm going to do is, if I'm happy with the information appearing above the wrap, and as you can see here, we've got that at position number 1, then I can move in on here and go echo, and just maybe we'll go top rated product. I know that's a top rated product, and I'm going to save the changes. And now when I head over to the website, you'll see that the words top rated product are inserted, but they are now available just above the div, the beginning of the div wrap. If I wanted to include it inside that div wrap, simply copy that, paste it in, save, and there we have it inside. If I just wanted to add some custom content, and I didn't want to include any of these elements, I just wanted to add some custom content that I have specially wrapped, then I can do something similar. So I'm going to head over here, and instead of making that a priority of 11, maybe I'm going to add some custom content below the title. So the excerpt here now, I'm going to move that down to a 7. And this this title is at 5. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change this to a 5, and I'm going to change this one to a 6, and we're going to save. Now when we refresh, you will see that the top rated product has now been inserted in that area and on its own. Maybe what I want to do now is actually bring the rating into the space. So then once again to do that, and in this case, we know that the rating is at position number 2. We need to have it so between those two. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make that at position number 5. Refresh, and you'll see now that it appears just above my function. So to move it into the function, position number 5 isn't going to work. And so what I'm going to do then is move this out to position number 8. And then I'm going to move my rating to position number 6. Save and refresh. And there you see now that it's moved to inside that custom content element. So there I have the title at the top. I've been able then to highlight my ratings, add a bit of custom text, and then we're back to the snippet, the price, and then the add to cart. So that's how you can quite easily then manipulate some of the basic items, add content, style content, format content, the way that you would like without touching the template. In the next video, we're going to have a look at some more items and manipulation. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.